Hey guys, Luke here back on Sean's channel. Today I'm going to be bringing you guys my new and improved Purrely deck. I'm not going to lie, I'm a little nervous about profiling this early at like this stage, just because we're so close to a ban list that I really don't know how to go about building deck profiles right now, because I'm very unsure about what's going to get banned, what's going to get unbanned, what decks are going to change in the coming format. Purrely is at a bit of a weird area right now, so it has two of its important cards semi-limited currently. I know some people are kind of talking about that maybe that they might become unlimited in the next ban list, but it's hard to say. Konami is usually very slow when it comes to unbanning its cards, but also the fact that I also run Droll and Lockbird in this deck too, and considering how Worlds went, where Droll was pretty much a game-changing card in the finals, there could also be some speculation that Droll might get either hit in some way or the other. So I really don't know how viable this deck is going to be in the coming format. That's why I didn't really build this competitively with a side deck or anything like that. I mostly just use this as for fun, so let's just keep that in mind. So without further ado, this is my Purrely deck profile. We start off with 3 copies of the main cat herself, 3 copies of Purrely. Now, for those of you who don't know, the main gimmick of Purrely is basically you have these level 1 main deck monsters in the form of Purrely and Purrelyly, and you also have a bunch of quick play spells. Now these quick play spells all have different abilities depending on which one you're using, but the vast majority have the effect where you can discard 1 card and then special summon 1 level 1 Purrely monster from your deck, which will be either Purrely or Purrelyly. Then when they're brought out into the field, they have a primary effect that they're able to do, but then they both have a secondary effect where you can target 1 Purrely quick play spell that's either in your graveyard if you're using Purrelyly, or in your hand if you're just using regular Purrely, and then you're able to go into your rank 2 Purrely monsters that mention the targeted spell card by using it and the Purrely monster as material. Then from there, all of your Purrely XZ monsters, all the small ones, all have similar effect that when a Purrely quick play spell is activated, you can activate their effect to equip it to it as material. So then you're basically just building up all of your small Purrelys with a bunch of materials so you can go for your boss monsters in the form of Expurrely Noir or Expurrely Happiness to get yourself at a great advantage from there. So although there are a lot of ways for us to get to Purrely herself, as I've just explained, all of the quick play Purrely spells are able to bring them out, I still find it quite vital to play Purrely at 3 copies, just because she has the effect that also, if it is normal summoned or special summoned, you can excavate the top 3 cards of your deck, and then if you do, you can add 1 excavated Purrely spell trap to your hand and then place the rest at the bottom of your deck in any order. So of course this is a great way at getting advantage, so I do think that it's worth running at 3 copies in this deck, and I run only 2 copies of Purrelyly. Purrelyly can arguably be better, just because her effect when she is normal special summoned is add 1 Purrely card from your deck to your hand except for a quick play spell. So that opens you up to a huge amount of options, such as a continuous spell, My Friend Purrely, or the field spell, Stray Purrely Street, which is of course definitely very, very good. Especially My Friend Purrely, I think that is a fantastic searcher card that we have in this deck. But I still don't think running Purrelyly at any more than 2 copies is all that necessary, just because we recently got a little bit of support, which is very funny because it's actually kind of an indirect bit of support, because I like to run 3 copies of Dawn Angel Kambi. Kambi is a great bit of support, which I genuinely just was not expecting. Honestly, I don't think anyone was expecting, but it does work really, really well in Purrely, because it's a level 1 fairy monster that has the effect that if you control no monsters, or all your monsters that you control are fairy monsters, you can special summon this card from your hand. And of course, all of our level 1 Purrely monsters in the deck are fairies, so it's no problem bringing Kambi out if we have an open field or one of the Purrelys on the field either way. But that's not the only reason she's good. She actually does have a crazy good effect that really, really helps us out. That she has the effect that you contribute any number of fairy monsters, including this card, and special summon 1 fairy monster from your deck whose level equals the total levels of those monsters had on the field. So of course, as you know, obviously looking at her, Dawn Angel Kambi has a 1-star level, and considering that she needs to tribute herself anyways, it allows us to bring out 1 level 1 fairy monster from the deck. So that just opens us up to either Purrely or Purrelyly. This is a fantastic bit of support. I definitely recommend you maximize it. It is genuinely just that good. Sure, after you activate that effect, you cannot special summon monsters except for fairy monsters for the rest of the turn, but honestly it doesn't really matter because all of her Purrely monsters, including the XZs, they're all fairies. So that lock doesn't really affect us too much. It can kind of get in the way of some of our more generic Link and XZ's plays, but we really don't care all that much if we're just going down the line of just going straight Purrely. If it isn't obvious yet, this is of course just a Purrely deck. There's no yummy, there's no big engines in it or anything like that. Besides the hand traps, Kambi is the only non-engine in this deck, but even still, it's honestly an honorary Purrely card at this point. I definitely think Kambi should be run at 3 copies in the deck. I'm just going to fly through hand traps now. 3 copies of Ash Blossom. Ash is just a great generic card, fantastic against all decks. 3 copies of Droll and Lockbird. Those of you that were tuned into Worlds know how absolutely crazy Droll is. Who knows, it might get hit, so maybe this deck is going to be irrelevant within the next week or two. But for the time being, let's definitely play Droll. It is really powerful card. And we also run 3 copies of Ghost Ogre and Snow Rabbit. Honestly, I just think Ghost Ogre is a little bit of an underrated card. If I were to replace this with anything, it might be either Effect Veiler or Nibiru, but that is open to interpretation. Whatever you think yourself is better on the matchup, you can absolutely side it out. But these are just ratios that I like to play. I think Ghost Ogre can definitely catch your opponent by surprise in a lot of different ways. So those are the hand traps that I recommend you play. But of course, decks are open to interpretation. Put in whatever you want. Going into the spells now, 3 copies of My Friend Purrely. My Friend Purrely is an absolutely fantastic card. I really do like it because it's a continuous spell, and a continuous spell that's an add is honestly insane because it just means if this survives a turn, it basically lets you like every turn just add a card. Although we don't directly pick the card, depending on what we're searching for, I do think it is still pretty good because this card has the effect that you can pay 500 life points, reveal 3 Purrely cards in your deck, except for My Friend Purrely, and then your opponent randomly picks one for you to add to your hand. So of course, if you want a copy of Purrely Pretty Memory, it's at 3, so you can just reveal all 3 copies of Pretty, and then of course you're going to get it into your hand. But for the semi-limited cards such as Delicious and Sleepy, we don't have the luxury of having 3 copies in our deck, so it can be a little bit randomized depending on what you get. But honestly, any of the Purrely quick play spells are absolutely fantastic to pull off of this card. So although the strategy may change a little bit, you really don't mind either way. This card also has the effect that if a face-up Purrely XZ monster you control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, even during a damage step, you can add up to 3 Purrely quick play spells with different names from your graveyard to your hand. Great bit of recycling, especially if we're put up against the wall. I think 3 copies of My Friend Purrely is absolutely essential in this deck. I run 3 copies of Stray Purrely Street. Some people might change this out and maybe run fewer copies, but I think 3 is fine. I actually do think this is a very good card because your opponent cannot target Purrely monsters you control with card effects the turn that they are special summoned while this card is face up on the field, which is a really good bit of protection. Also has the effect of once per turn, if a face-up Purrely XZ monster you control leaves the field because of an opponent's card, you're able to special summon 1 level 1 Purrely monster from your deck or graveyard, so it's a great little bit of recovery. And then also, once per turn during the end phase, you can target 1 Purrely XZ monster on the field and attach 1 Purrely quick play spell from your deck or graveyard to that monster as material. So it's a great way of keeping monsters such as Expurrely Noir full of material so that we're able to get his bounce effect. So I think it's really great to have a Stray Purrely Street on the field at all times. I think 3 copies is perfectly fine. Now we run 2 copies of Purrely Delicious Memory. We're getting into the quick play Purrely spells now, so I should just say right off the bat, they all have the effect that you can discard 1 card, and then if you do, you can special summon 1 Purrely monster from your deck. They all have that same effect, so just keep that in mind. But you can only activate that effect if you meet the activation cost. So for example, Purrely Delicious Memory has the effect that choose 1 monster on the field, and until the end of the next turn, it cannot be destroyed by battle. And then after meeting that maintenance cost, you're able to activate the effect of discarding 1 card and then special summoning 1 level 1 Purrely monster from the deck. So they would all have different maintenance costs, but they'd all have the same effect of special summoning a level 1 Purrely monster. But that's not all they do. As I've already mentioned, the main goal of Purrely is to try and get as many of your quick play spells as material for your bigger Purrely XZ monsters, because they all have different effects based on if they are attached as material to the monster. So Purrely Delicious Memory, if it's material for an XZ monster, it gives the effect that the monster gains 300 attack and defense for each material attached to it. And considering that you can get some of your Purrely XZ monsters with like 7 material, you're able to get those Purrely monsters up to a ridiculous amount of attack. So it's kind of not surprising that Delicious Memory is currently semi-limited, especially with the likes of Expurrely Noir being at towers where it's really hard for your opponent to out. Adding on top of that, giving him a ridiculous amount of attack can be very problematic for your opponent. Really great for us though, so I do know that it is mandatory to run it at 2. If it was unlimited, we would absolutely be running it at 3. 2 copies of Purrely Sleeping Memory. This is another victim of the ban list right now. In order to special summon a Purrely monster, you need to meet the maintenance cost of the next battle phase or effect damage you take this turn will become 0. So of course, that just means you can pretty much activate it anytime you want. With the likes of Purrely Delicious Memory, there needs to be a monster on the field in order for you to meet the maintenance cost and activate that. But Sleepy is a little bit different because you can activate that pretty much any time because it says the next battle or effect damage you take this turn will become 0. So it's definitely really great for that. But also, if it's being used as material for an XZ monster, it has the effect that during your opponent's standby phase, you can draw 1 card. And of course, this effect doubles up. So if you have 2 Sleeping Memory as material under one of your Purrely XZ monsters, you're able to draw 2 cards. When this card was at 3, it was absolutely insane when your opponent was able to draw 3 off of this. But of course, it's still semi-limited, so we can only settle with the 2 copies for now. We run 3 copies of Purrely Pretty Memory. It needs the maintenance cost of each player gains 1000 life points in order to special summon a Purrely monster, and then also has the effect that if it is being used as XZ material, you can once per turn send one of the cards you control to the graveyard, then target one card your opponent controls and attach this card's material, which I find to be absolutely great. It helps us keep advantage of keeping our materials attached to our monsters, so I do think it is definitely essential to run it at 3 copies in the deck. Very powerful card. The final Purrely quick play spell is Epurrely Happy Memory. The maintenance cost is choose 1 card in the field until the end of the next turn. The first time it will be destroyed by card effect, it is not destroyed. So again, you do need a card on the field in order to meet the maintenance cost of this, for you to discard 1 card and then special summon 1 level 1 Purrely monster, which is fine because it also has the effect that when it is being used as XZ material for one of your Purrely monsters, this card can attack monsters a number of times each battle phase up to the number of Epurrely Happy Memories attached to it plus 1. So if we're able to get a multiple Epurrely Happy Memories onto our XZ monster, then we're able to attack possibly 4 times on monsters during that battle phase, which of course is really great. So 3 copies of Happy Memory, I definitely recommend you play. We're going to round off the spells with some like one-ofs, so we run 1 copy of Triple Tactics Talent, 1 Crossout Designator, and 1 Call by the Grave. All limited cards, but all powerful cards. I definitely recommend you guys run them to round off your spells. Going into traps now, we have Purrelyeap. This is basically just a quick way for us to cheat out our Expurrely Noir during our opponent's turn. I don't find it extremely necessary, to be quite honest with you, but it can definitely come in handy if you're just short of 1 material. And the fact that we're able to search it off of cards like Purrelyly, I think is definitely worth the run. And then we're going to round off the main deck with 3 copies of Imperm. Going into the extra deck now, we run 2 copies of Expurrely Noir. This is probably the boss monster of the deck. You can XZ summon this card by using a rank 2 monster you control with 5 or more materials, and then transferring the materials to this card, which is great because this card is unaffected by your opponent's activated effects when it has 5 or more materials. So it can be a really brutal towers for your opponent to have to deal with. As the effect, you can detach 2 materials from this card, then target 1 card your opponent controls, or in their graveyard that you can place at the bottom of their deck. And this is a quick effect if you have a level 1 Purrely monster as material. Of course, that's great, because not only is that a powerful effect, but this card is going to gain a bunch of other powerful effects depending on what Purrely quick play spells you have on it with material. So for example, Delicious is going to increase its attack, Sleepy is going to let you draw cards, Pretty is going to let you send cards to the graveyard, and Happy might be able to let it attack multiple times. So that just makes Expurrely Noir a really powerful monster. I will say this is more going down the control route with Noir, just because unless if we have Delicious attached to it, it has a very tiny attack with only 1100. So although it is a boss monster, I definitely see it more as a control heavy sort of boss monster rather than an attack heavy boss monster. For an attack heavy boss monster, we use Epurrely Happiness. This can be brought out similarly to Noir in the sense that you can also XZ summon this card using a rank 2 monster you control with 5 or more material and then transfer it to this card. So this card has the effect that during the main phase you can attach 1 material from this card, and if you do, negate the effects of all face-up monsters your opponent currently controls. And if you have a level 1 Purrely monster as material on this card while you activate that effect, then your opponent cannot respond. So it's just a great little Dark Ruler no more, essentially, which I just find fantastic. But that's not all it does. When an attack is declared evolving, this card that has 5 or more material, you're able to inflict 1500 damage to your opponent. There is a very funny kind of OTK you're able to do with Expurrely Happiness, but it does involve a little bit of setup using Delicious Memory and Happy Memory, but it can be pulled off in this deck. That's why I like to run Expurrely Happiness, just because although Noir is a fantastic boss monster, it doesn't really have much of a fighting chance as Happiness does. So I also like to run Happiness at 1 as well. We run 2 copies of Epurrely Beauty. Now I'm not even sure if I mentioned this earlier, but I'm sure I probably have. When it comes to the Purrely monsters, the monster that you bring out off of their effect using the specific Purrely spell card needs to bring out specific monsters. So for example, Epurrely Beauty can specifically be brought out using a Purrely monster and Purrely Pretty Memory. So this is kind of like the monster equivalent of that card. But it has the effect that once per turn, and as I've definitely already mentioned earlier as well, all of the smaller XYZ Purrely monsters have the effect that up to 3 times per turn, when an effect of a Purrely quick play spell is activated, you're able to quick effect attach that card on the field to this card as material, and then it gets an additional effect from there. So Epurrely Beauty has the effect that once per turn you can target one effect monster your opponent controls negates effects at the end of this turn, which is a fantastic primary effect. It's good to have some effect negation in this deck. But also, if you're able to attach a Purrely quick play spell card to it using its effect, then you can change the battle position of one monster your opponent controls, which of course is very good. We also run 2 copies of Epurrely Happiness. This is the card you're able to bring out using a Purrely monster and Purrely Happy Memory. Has the effect that at the end of the damage step, if this card battles, you can add 1 Purrely card from your deck to your hand. Also, if this has Purrely Happy Memory as material, you can have the attack of 1 face-up monster on the field. But also, if this card is able to attach a Purrely quick play spell to it as material using its effect, then you can return 1 spell so strap your opponent controls to the hand. So we definitely think it's good to run Happiness at 2 copies in this deck. We run 1 copy of Epurrely Plump and 1 copy of Epurrely Noir. Honestly, we would probably run more copies of these cards if Delicious Memory and Sleeping Memory were unlimited, but they're not, so just based on that fact alone, you're better off running more copies of Epurrely Beauty and Epurrely Happiness, just because Happy Memory and Pretty Memory are still unlimited, whereas Delicious and Sleepy aren't. So Plump has the effect where once per turn you can target up to 2 spells or straps in the graveyards and attach them to this card as material, which is fantastic. It's honestly the quickest way to get one of your Purrely monsters with a bunch of material as quickly as possible. So that's another reason why I think Delicious might be on the semi-limited list just for a little while longer, just because it would give Purrelys that much more ease of access to their boss monster if they did just bring it back. But Plump also has a very powerful secondary effect that if it's able to attach a Purrely quick play spell to it as material using its effect, it can then banish 1 monster on the field until the end phase, which is just absolutely crazy and really powerful. Noir has the effect that once per turn you can discard 1 card and target 1 card your opponent controls, or up to 2 if this has Purrely Sleeping Memory as material, and then you're able to return those cards to the hand. Fantastic little bit of removal. It's a shame Sleepy is semi-limited, so you're less likely to see this, but that's not all Noir can do. It also has the effect that if it attaches a Purrely quick play spell to it as material, you're able to set 1 Purrely trap directly from your deck. So that's one of the main reasons why we still run Purrelyeap. It's just the easiest way for us to search for it. So 1 copy each of those guys. Next up, since this is an XYZ deck, we of course run Zeus. But using the Purrelys isn't the only way to make your way up into ZEUS with a bunch of material. We also use cards such as Downerd Magician, as well as Lyrilusc Assembled Nightingale. This is just in case we're locked out of doing any of our Purrely stuff, and we kind of just want to go for a big sort of Zeus monster. Because Assembled Nightingale is able to attack directly. It may have 0 attack, so it'll probably do no damage, but that doesn't really matter because then when we go into main phase 2, we're able to overlay with Downerd Magician, and also since XYZ monster attacked that turn, you're able to overlay Downerd Magician into Zeus. So it's just a really cool Zeus package that we're able to run this deck. Zeus is fantastic in Purrely regardless, considering the amount of materials you're able to get onto your XYZ monsters. But that's just another cool little engine that you're able to run. Because hey, at the end of the day, Zeus is still a crazy card. It's still 3000 attack and defense as well, so you can't really go wrong. We also run TY-PHON as well. Honestly, TY-PHON messes us up more so than our opponent. But if our opponent is playing something where TY-PHON could be a good matchup against it, we have the room, so we might as well run it. So I like to run TY-PHON at 1 copy as well. Then going into the links, 1 copy of Relinquished Anima. Anima can be great because we run level 1 monsters in this deck primarily. So Anima could just be a good way to steal away your opponent's monsters if they have very poor field placement. So Anima can just be really good for that, especially if you're able to link it away with another monster to go to SP Little Knight, because as you know, SP is just a fantastic card. Who knows, maybe it might be on the chopping block for the next ban list, but I don't really think so. I think SP might stick around a little bit longer. I think IP is going to be going very soon, so I think it's still fine for us to run SP. So that about does it for the deck. Please let me know what you guys think. I'm quite happy with the way this deck turned out, but I am not really a Purrely player, so I would really love to hear some suggestions in the comments on ways you guys think I can improve this deck. If you guys think it's probably better with Yummy, yeah, that's absolutely fine and totally valid, but I kind of want to stick to it being as pure as I possibly can, and also Yummy's really expensive right now, so I'm trying to play this quite budget, but I'd really love to hear your thoughts. I'm open to all criticism because, again, I'm not really a Purrely player. This is just a nice, fun budget deck that I've been having a little bit of fun with, so I wanted to share it with you guys. But if you have any other suggestions, please let me know. If you guys would like to buy this deck, then please be sure to use the affiliate links down in the description below. By using those affiliate links, you're able to support the channel directly, which Sean and I greatly appreciate. Another way you guys can help out the channel is if you consider becoming a member. I want to give a big shout out to our members, yugioh, JoJo TCGs, John Cran, Vex, and Kingslayer111. We really appreciate your guys' continued support because it really helps motivate myself and Sean to keep bringing you guys these videos. So we want to give you a big thank you for that. We really appreciate your support. It doesn't go unnoticed. For the rest of you guys, you can consider just liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and leaving a comment. It all goes a very long way. So thank you so much for that. And we'll see you guys in the next one.